The sign on the door was explicit. It was written in 12 different galactic languages, glowing in a harsh, warning red. It said, "Absolute restricted area. Penalty for entry. Immediate termination." Most people on the galactic station Aethelgard would have walked past that door with their heads down, terrified to even breathe in its direction. But Ronin wasn't most people. And frankly, Ronin wasn't paid enough to care about the politics of highborn aliens. He was just the janitor. He was the guy who scrubbed the stardust off the viewports and unclogged the waste recyclers when the diplomats had too much to drink. But tonight, Ronin stopped. Because through the heavy, sound-dampened metal of that forbidden door, he heard something that shouldn't exist in this cold, perfect station. He heard crying. Before we see what Ronin found behind that door, I want to ask you, have you ever broken a rule because your gut told you it was the right thing to do? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories about humans confusing the galaxy with their stubbornness, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Now let's open the door. The hallway of Sector 7 was silent, save for the rhythmic thrum hiss of Ronin's floor buffer. The Aethelgard Station was a marvel of engineering, a shining beacon of the Galactic Council, home to species that had mastered faster-than-light travel, while humanity was still figuring out the steam engine. To them, humans were useful, durable, good for manual labor, good for fixing things that required getting your hands dirty. Ronin adjusted his gray jumpsuit. It smelled faintly of lemon-scented industrial cleaner and old coffee. He looked at the door again. Restricted Imperial Suite. Technically, his master key card, an override chip given to maintenance staff because trash doesn't respect security clearance, would open it. The logic of the high-tech aliens was flawed in a way Ronin found hilarious. They assumed no lowly worker would dare enter. They built security for spies and assassins, not for janitors. The sound came again, a low, keening sob. It vibrated with a resonance that felt like a tuning fork struck against his chest bone. "Ah, hell," Ronin muttered, scratching his unshaven chin. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. He swiped his card. The light blinked from angry red to compliant green. The heavy blast doors hissed open. Ronin expected a war room or a torture chamber, or a vault full of gold. What he found was a garden. It was an artificial biodome enclosed within the room, filled with bioluminescent plants that pulsed with a soft dying light. And in the center, sitting on a floating dais made of cold marble, was a creature of breathtaking, terrifying beauty. She was an Aetherian. Ronin had seen pictures of them on the news feeds, the royalty of the galaxy. Her skin wasn't skin. It was a living mosaic of shifting starlight-infused scales that shimmered between pale violet and deep indigo. She was tall, perhaps 7 feet if she stood, with limbs that looked fragile, like spun glass. But right now, the Queen of the Stars, the matriarch of the Aetherian ascendancy, was curled into a ball, her face buried in her hands, weeping tears that turned into tiny chiming crystals when they hit the floor. Ronin stood there, holding his mop bucket handle like a weapon. The door hissed shut behind him. The Queen's head snapped up. Her eyes were solid pools of silver light, usually terrifying, but now wide with shock. "Assassin?" she whispered. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Make it quick, please." Ronin blinked. He looked at his mop. He looked at his jumpsuit. No. Janitor, just Ronin. The Queen stared at him. The concept seemed to struggle to find purchase in her brain. "Janitor, you are the cleaner?" "That's me," Ronin said, stepping forward cautiously. "I heard you crying from the hall. The soundproofing on these blast doors isn't as good as the contractors claimed." She recoiled, pressing herself against the back of the dais. "You cannot be here! If the High Council sees you, you will be vaporized. I am in the cleansing." "The cleansing?" Ronin looked around. "Place looks pretty clean to me. A bit dusty in the corners, maybe." "It is a ritual," she said, her voice trembling. "I am Aeliana. I am to be the vessel of the Unity in 3 cycles. I must be isolated. I must shed all emotion. I must become empty." She gestured to the crystal tears on the floor. "But I cannot stop. The fear, it leaks out of me." Ronin frowned. He was a simple man, but he knew a bad deal when he heard one. "Wait, you have to stop having feelings so you can lead your people? That sounds as broken." "It is the way," Aeliana whispered. "If I am not empty, the Unity cannot fill me. If I fail, my lineage is disgraced. But I am afraid. I do not want to be empty. I want to be me. Ronin looked at this being, a creature who could probably crush his mind with a thought. Yet she looked smaller than a scared child. He walked over to his cart. He rummaged through the supplies. "Stop," Aeliana warned. "Do not approach." Ronin ignored her. He pulled out a small crinkled package wrapped in foil. He walked up to the dais and placed it gently on the marble edge, keeping a respectful distance. "Chocolate," Ronin said. "Synthesized mostly, but it's got real cocoa butter. My grandma used to say, chocolate fixes everything except a leaky pipe." Aeliana stared at the foil wrapper. "You offer me rations?" "I offer you a break," Ronin corrected. "Look, Your Highness, or Majesty, Aeliana, I don't know much about galactic rituals, but I know that if you bottle up pressure, the pipes burst. You're crying because you're scared. That's not a defect. That's just being alive." He turned to leave. "I gotta go before security sweeps the hall. Eat the chocolate, it helps." Ronin left before she could respond. When he checked the room the next night, the foil wrapper was neatly folded on the dais, and the crystal tears were gone. The bond formed in the quiet hours of the graveyard shift, a human term that Aeliana found morbidly fascinating. For the next 2 weeks, Ronin visited every night. He learned the security patterns. The guards were lazy, relying on sensors that Ronin had long ago learned to bypass to find quiet napping spots. He didn't just bring snacks. He brought noise. He brought life. "So, explain this to me again," Ronin said one night, sitting on the floor with his back against the dais while he polished a brass railing. "You become the Unity. Does that mean you die?" Aeliana was sitting closer to him now. The light of her scales had shifted from a pale, sickly violet to a warmer, pulsing gold. "Not death, transcendence. My consciousness is overwritten. I become the voice of billions. I will know everything, but I will feel nothing." "Sounds like death with extra paperwork," Ronin grunted. Aeliana let out a sound that was definitely a giggle. It was a musical fluttering sound. "You are remarkably disrespectful, Ronin." "I'm American," Ronin shrugged, as if that explained everything. "We have a history of throwing tea into harbors when we don't like the rules." "Tell me about Earth," she asked softly. "Is it true it is a Class 4 death world?" "It's chaotic," Ronin admitted. He stopped polishing. "It's loud. It smells like rain and asphalt and frying onions. It's not perfect like this station. It's messy, but it's free." Aeliana reached out. Her hand, glowing and translucent, hovered inches from Ronin's shoulder. She had never touched a lower life form. She had never touched anyone who wasn't a priest or a servant dressing her. "I have never seen rain," she whispered. "I have studied the molecular composition of precipitation, but I have never felt it." Ronin looked at her. He saw the longing in those silver eyes. "You know, the fire suppression system in this room uses fresh water reserves, not chemical foam." Aeliana tilted her head. "Why is that relevant?" Ronin grinned. It was a mischievous, crooked grin. "Do you trust the janitor?" I think I do." Ronin stood up, grabbed his extendable mop handle, and reached up toward the high vaulted ceiling. He aimed for a small red sensor node. "Don't worry, I disabled the alarm relay on this sector yesterday. Faulty wiring, I'm waiting for parts." He tapped the sensor hard. Hiss! A fine mist of cool water sprayed down from the ceiling directly over the garden. It wasn't a storm, but it was a gentle, steady shower. Aeliana gasped. She stood up, her robes clinging to her frame. She reached out her hands, catching the droplets. The water sizzled slightly against her energy field. But she laughed. She spun around, her face turned upward, the silver eyes squeezing shut. "It is cold!" she shouted, laughing. "It is wonderful." Ronin watched her, leaning on his mop. He wasn't looking at an alien queen anymore. He was looking at a person experiencing freedom for the first time. "It's rain, Aeliana," he said softly. She stopped spinning and looked at him. Water dripped from her chin. She stepped off the dais, something forbidden by protocol, and stood right in front of him. She was tall, looming over him, but her presence was warm. She reached out and placed a hand on his cheek. Her skin felt like cool glass vibrating with electricity. "You are not just a cleaner, Ronin," she said, her voice fierce. "You are the first thing that has felt real in my entire life." That was when the blast doors hissed open. The moment shattered. Standing in the doorway was High Chancellor Vrax, a towering insectoid being with chitinous black armor, flanked by 4 armed Praetorian guards. Vrax's mandibles clicked in disgust. "The sensor malfunction? I suspected sabotage. But this, he pointed a claw at Ronin. A human parasite polluting the vessel? Aeliana stepped in front of Ronin, her bioluminescence flaring into a blinding white. Do not touch him, Chancellor. He is my guest. You have no guests, vessel, Vrax spat. You have only your duty, and you have been tainted. He gestured to the guards. Take the human to the airlock. Eject him. We will have to accelerate the ritual. The Unity must take her tonight before her mind is further corrupted by this filth. 2 guards grabbed Ronin. He struggled, landing a solid kick on a knee joint. But they were reinforced with combat exoskeletons. They slammed him into the floor. Run, Ronin! Aeliana screamed, glowing brighter, the room shaking with her psionic distress. No! Ronin grunted as he was dragged away. Aeliana, don't let them erase you! Fight it! The blast door slammed shut, cutting off her scream. Ronin sat in the detention cell, nursing a split lip. The airlock ejection was scheduled for 0600 hours. He had about an hour left. He paced the small cell. He wasn't thinking about his death. He was thinking about her. He was thinking about the way she looked when the water hit her face. He was thinking about transcendence, the fancy word for murder. They're gonna wipe her, Ronin muttered, over my dead body. He looked at the cell door. Standard magnetic lock, high security. Impossible to pick without advanced hacking tools. Ronin reached into his boot. When the guards had searched him, they took his ID card, his radio, and his belt tools. But they hadn't checked his socks, and they certainly hadn't checked the heel of his left boot. He pulled out a small flat canister of Solvex industrial rust remover. It was a highly corrosive, illegal in 3 sectors cleaning agent that Ronin used for the really stubborn stains on the engine deck. He knelt by the door mechanism. The lock relied on a delicate conductive alloy. Let's see how you handle industrial-grade acid, Ronin whispered. He poured the gel into the seam of the lock. It sizzled. Smoke curled up, smelling acrid and sharp. He waited 10 seconds, then kicked the panel as hard as he could. Crack! Fizz! The lock shorted. The door slid open halfway and stuck. Ronin squeezed through. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have armor. He had a jumpsuit and a canister of acid. But he knew the station. He knew the ventilation shafts that the architects drew, but the security teams ignored. He knew that if you crawled through the waste disposal chute of Sector 4, you came out right behind the ceremonial hall. Ronin moved. He didn't run like a soldier. He moved like a shadow. He dodged patrols by ducking into service alcoves. He bypassed sensors by knowing exactly where their blind spots were. He was the one who dusted them after all. He reached the Great Hall of Ascension. It was a cavernous space, filled with dignitaries from 100 worlds. In the center, a massive machine hummed. The integration engine. Aeliana was strapped into it. She looked terrifying. Her light was dim, gray. Her eyes were vacant. Wires were connected to her temples, pulsing with data. Vrax stood at a podium, chanting in a language that sounded like grinding stones. The vessel is prepared, Vrax boomed. Let the personality be purged. Let the unity descend. The machine whined, rising in pitch. Aeliana's body arched in pain. Ronin was up in the maintenance gantry, 30 feet above the stage. He looked down. He saw the guards. He saw the hopelessness of it. Okay, Ronin whispered to himself. Time to take out the trash. He spotted the main coolant line for the integration engine. It ran right along the gantry. It was marked Caution, Liquid Nitrogen, Absolute Zero. Ronin took his heavy janitor's wrench, which he had recovered from a closet on the way, and jammed it into the release valve. It was stuck. Come on, he gritted his teeth. Come on, you rusty piece of... Below, Aeliana screamed. It wasn't a song this time. It was pure agony. Ronin roared, putting all his weight on the wrench. Stubborn! Clang! The valve sheared off. A massive pressurized jet of supercooled liquid nitrogen exploded downward. It didn't hit Aeliana. Ronin had aimed perfectly. It hit the energy generators powering the machine. Boom! The thermal shock shattered the generators. The machine sparked, groaned, and died. The lights in the hall flickered and went out, replaced by emergency red strobes. Chaos erupted. Dignitaries screamed and scrambled. Ronin didn't wait. He uncoiled a maintenance hose and rappelled down, sliding through the steam and smoke like an action hero on a budget. He landed on the stage. Vrax was staring at the ruined machine, stunned. You, Vrax shrieked, pointing at Ronin. The filth! Janitor, Ronin corrected, punching Vrax square in the mandibles. The Chancellor crumbled, more out of shock than pain. Ronin scrambled to Aeliana. He ripped the wires from her temples. Aeliana, wake up. Her eyes fluttered open. The silver was swirling with confusion. Ronin, is this the afterlife? No, Ronin grinned, blood dripping from his lip. It's a jailbreak. Can you walk? I think so. Good, because we're leaving. Stop them. Frack screamed from the floor. Kill the human. A dozen Praetorian guards rushed the stage, weapons charging. Ronin stood in front of Aeliana. He held up his hands. He had nothing left. No tricks, no acid, just his body. Get behind me, he told her. No, Aeliana said. She stepped forward. She placed a hand on Ronin's shoulder, and then she got angry. For the first time in her life, Aeliana didn't suppress her emotion. She didn't empty herself. She filled herself. She took all the fear, the sadness, the rage, and the gratitude she felt for this strange, dirty human, and she let it out. Her scales flared, not with the soft light of a queen, but with the blinding, searing light of a supernova. Do not touch him, she screamed, and a wave of pure psionic energy blasted outward. It didn't kill the guards. It simply pushed. It slammed them against the walls. It shattered the windows. It cracked the marble floor. The entire hall fell silent. The guards were groaning on the floor. The dignitaries were hiding under tables. Aeliana stood there, glowing like a goddess of vengeance. She looked at her hands, trembling with power. I am not empty, she said, her voice amplified by her own power. I am full! She turned to Ronin. The glow softened instantly. You came back, she said, sounding amazed. I forgot my mop, Ronin joked weakly. Let's get out of here before they call reinforcements. They ran, but they didn't have to sneak this time. Aeliana simply waved her hand, and blast doors opened. Guards who tried to stop them took one look at the blazing queen and the battered human and decided they weren't paid enough either. They reached the docking bay. Ronin's ship was there, a beat-up cargo hauler named the Rusty Bucket. It's not much, Ronin said, the ramp lowering, but it's got artificial gravity and a coffee machine. Aeliana stopped at the bottom of the ramp. She looked back at the glistening cold station of Aethelgard. They will come for us, she said, the entire fleet. Let them come, Ronin said, offering her his hand. The galaxy is a big place, and I know all the hiding spots. She took his hand. Her grip was strong now. Where do we go? She asked. Earth, Ronin said. I promised you rain, didn't I? 6 months later. The rain on Earth was exactly as Ronin had described. Messy, cold, loud. Aeliana sat on the porch of a small cabin in the Pacific Northwest. She was wearing one of Ronin's flannel shirts, which looked ridiculous over her shimmering scales, but she refused to take it off. She watched the water fall from the sky, fascinated by the way it turned the pine trees a darker shade of green. The screen door creaked open. Ronin stepped out, holding 2 mugs of hot cocoa. News feeds are still going crazy, he said, handing her a mug. The Rogue Queen and her human pet. They still can't figure out how I kidnapped you. Aeliana took a sip, humming at the taste of the chocolate. They cannot conceive that I chose to leave. It does not fit their data. Well, Ronin sat down on the swing bench beside her. Data is overrated. Aeliana leaned her head on his shoulder. It was a gesture that would have caused a galactic incident 6 months ago. Now it was just Tuesday. Ronin? Yeah, I am still not empty, she whispered. My heart, it feels heavy sometimes, and light other times, it is chaotic. That's happiness, El, Ronin said, resting his chin on her crystalline hair. And sadness and love. It's the whole package, no refunds. She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the gray, rainy sky. I do not want a refund. She raised her hand, weaving a tiny pattern of light in the air. A small, harmless spark of her power. She made the raindrops dance for a moment, freezing them in midair to create a crystal sculpture of a flower, just for him. You fixed me, she said. Ronin shook his head, taking her hand in his rough, calloused one. Nah, he said, watching the rain fall on the woman who had given up the stars for a chance to feel the rain. I just opened the door. You did the rest. And that is the story of how a janitor stole the Queen of the Galaxy. If you like this story, please consider subscribing. We release new sci-fi stories every week. And tell me in the comments, if you were Ronin, would you have opened the door or kept walking? I'll see you in the next one.